Hey guys, it's Ian again, coming to you once again from my mom's moose room. This will probably be the last video in here, at least for a while. Maybe never again. I'm going to be going to work in Tule Lake for the government. If you know me, I work for the government most of the time. I won't say exactly. If you recognize this type of shirt, get an idea. But I just think it's inappropriate to mention what agency I work for. It won't be this agency this winter. So today, let's talk about Lugers. So when I was a kid, you've heard my story about the Krag, where I fell in love with the Krag and, kind of rediscovered it later on in life. Well, the Luger is kind of the same story. I remember seeing a Luger on TV and just thinking, that's such an ugly gun. But, I think it looked, excuse me, I just had some coffee. I thought it looked really cool. And so years go by, and I go to a gun show called the Saxit Gun Show here in San Antonio. And there was a guy who had a table just covered in Lugers. And it was like, this is amazing. I can actually pick one up. I mean, they were all chained down or they were wired down, so you couldn't run off with it. But I was finally able to hold one in my hands and kind of get an idea for what it felt like to hold one of these. I don't even remember what caliber it was. I don't remember if it was German or Swiss. Probably German, just because most of the ones you see are German. I do remember the barrel looked kind of short, so it was probably a German Luger. So fast forward to 2013. And I'm working for one of the agencies that I work for. And I saved up enough money, and I bought myself a Luger. Now, you probably know I own a Luger already. Most people know this is when I'm in a state that has open carry law, where it's legal to open carry a sidearm. This is my open carry firearm, just because it looks cool. I don't actually expect to have to use it. I really wouldn't want to have to use it. I would if I needed to, but it's very unlikely. But I got myself a Luger. I bought it here in San Antonio at a store that I don't want to mention because I don't want to advertise for them, because this is the only gun I ever bought from them, and really, otherwise they're just a crappy store. I got a really good deal on this one. So this one, you can see here, was made in 1910 by DWM. That's their crest right there on the toggle. And this is a low serial number firearm, 8945. That's actually part of the initial order of 10,000 pistols from DWM for the German Empire. This one was actually imported before World War II as well. And I know that because there's no Nazi markings on it. Most of these that got adopted by the military during World War II got Waffenamts, which are basically an eagle with a swastika underneath it and maybe a number. But this one doesn't have it. What it does have is right here, and it's very faint, but as you can see, it says Germany right there. And that's on the lower frame here. And since this is a collectible firearm, it is import marked later. This initial marking was probably 1930s. My suspicion is that it got sold maybe on the British market initially, but there's no British proof marks. For the life of me, I really can't say who imported this and who exported it, because the only proof marks are German proof marks. But right here on the frame, and really you can barely see it, it was imported through California, through Sacramento, California. And really, I can't tell what import company imported this, but I'm very thankful that they were able to put such small letters. In fact, I didn't know it had that import mark for 2 years. I just found that this year. So for the longest time, I thought it was an import marked, but that doesn't really matter. I don't plan on selling this. So kind of the story behind it is this is actually a Schutzpolitzei. So if you see right there, it's Schutzpolitzei, Dusseldorf Region 5. I think I have it upside down. Yeah, I got it upside down. Schutzpolitzei, Dusseldorf Region 5, and then its service number here. So it was used by the German police. I'm pretty sure initially it was used by their military just based on these proof marks, which are the military proof marks from the Imperial German military, from their army. But it's a really, really good pistol. Initially when I bought it, it shot just worthless. I went through a lot of stuff to figure out what it was. It turned out it was the magazines. Now, this is a new magazine, as you can probably tell. It has my name on it because I was dumb, but it doesn't matter. These are, these don't matter. They have plastic bases. The initial ones, I have an original. I don't use it because, for one, it doesn't shoot worth anything out of it. And then for another thing, it's expensive, even though it doesn't shoot very well. These are like $35. It's actually not bad for a magazine. These feed really well. They're an 8-round magazine. You have to use a special tool, however. Oh, by the way, I have a really nice, this is my holster. It's a leather holster, World War I style. It's a reproduction. And in there is a little pocket for a reloading tool and takedown tool. And it's specifically designed for the Luger. It has a little rib back here and a little hole, and it connects on there. So, see that? So it's so you don't tear up your thumb, because that hurts, especially after like the 4th round. That spring starts getting really hard. So 8-round magazines. It's in 9mm parabellum. Popular round. Everybody knows it. That knows guns fairly well. It was actually originally designed by Luger for this firearm. It was ordered by the Germans. They liked the 7.63 mount or Luger, but it wasn't quite powerful enough for them. The Swiss adopted the 7.63, which is basically like a 30 caliber. In fact, you can buy it as 30 Luger. So the Swiss adopted it. They liked it. Germans liked the action of the Luger, but they didn't like the round. So Luger basically took the same round, cut it down very slightly. I think it was 2 millimeters shorter, but opened up the neck to 9 millimeters, and bingo, you have the 9 millimeter. And that was in like 1902. And then it went through trials with the Germans, and then eventually they adopted it in 1908 with this particular design. Mine is converted for a magazine hold open, which operates on this. I've since taken it out just because it's so worn out that I really don't want to hurt it anymore, because it's been chewed up just by the toggle slamming onto it. So I just took it out. Don't really need it. It's not a safety feature or anything. I just shoot for fun for the most part with my Luger. It has really nice wood grips, and these are the original wood grips. They have a matching serial number on the inside. They're super comfortable. I'm pretty sure they're made of walnut, but they feel like plastic. It's amazing. There's a little chip out of that one. I still actually have that little piece of wood too. Everything that's broken on this, which isn't much, it's the extractor and that part of the grip, I have saved. I will not throw away anything from this gun. I find it to be really cool gun to have. It's kind of a point of pride for me to actually have a Luger. I have my 2 dream guns. I have Krag and I have a Luger. Really everything else can go at some point. So if you're wondering how it operates, if you've never shot a Luger, I really suggest at some point shooting a Luger in your future. Basically, you take your thumb and forefinger and wrap it, and you open this toggle. See the chamber there? So you'd have your magazine, and then you just let it go, and it's loaded. And when it fires, it's on safe, by the way. Safe is in German. Geschützt. And what's weird is up is fire, and down is safe, which is very atypical. And the safety is basically just this block comes up and blocks the sear. The sear is on the side. This is a striker-fired pistol. So you fire it, and the whole operating system goes back, or operating mechanism goes back. And watch this knob. See what it does. It lifts up on this ramp right here. So this is a short recoil operated toggle mechanism. Basically what it does is the recoil goes back a few millimeters. It strikes onto this ramp, breaking the toggle, and the rest of the recoil lifts the toggle up, like so, and it cycles the next round. Very fast action. It's actually extremely comfortable because you have momentum going in two directions rather than one, like in most slide-operated firearms where recoil goes back, and, you know, so does the slide and everything else. So it's a very heavy back recoil. The recoil in this case goes up and back. So it's reduced. However, you do get a lot of barrel kick up. Another thing is the grip. A lot of people see these grips and they notice that angle. That angle's purpose is to make it far more comfortable in the hand, and it really is. It's an extremely comfortable gun to shoot, and it points really well. So it's really like, you know, your finger. You point your finger, it's going to go where you're pointing. Another thing is it has not the lowest barrel axis, but it's pretty close to the hand, so you can really point and shoot this thing. You know, aiming is obviously recommended, but really it's, I've shot at just, you know, instinctual shooting, and it's done really well. Most of the parts on this one are matching. With a 45, what they do is, the Germans did, is they just put the last two numbers of the serial number on here. Really, the only replacement parts on here are the trigger, the extractor, which I replaced myself. The trigger I don't know who replaced, and then the striker and firing pin. They're their own little assembly. Basically, it's just a firing pin. But that's serial number ending in 88. Let's see. Let's open it up a little bit. So this is it. Actually, this is how you take it down. So you have this plate that would be right here, and this lever would be moved up. So what you do is you push the barrel back, perfectly safe. We know it's not loaded, no magazine in the well or anything. Push it back slightly, like that, and then you'd angle this down, and then you take off this plate. So it's disassembled like that. Plates matching. I'll show you how the trigger works in a second too. The last two serial numbers on the trigger are 99. So nice symmetrical numbers. People for some reason like symmetrical serial numbers. I don't get the appeal, but hey, whatever. That's what you're into. There's people that actually collect, like specifically they want guns with symmetrical serial numbers like 800-800 or 89-89 or something like that. I have a sort of symmetrical serial number on my K31. So the way the trigger works is you have a sear here. Well, when you pull the trigger, it moves this. So it pushes on the sear, pushes this part in, and you'll hear it click in a second. See? And that lifts the sear over here from the firing pin that's in the toggle. So we'll complete disassembly. So now we have the upper portion, the upper slide and toggle. This is the frame. Really all it has is the rails and the recoil spring, which is kind of hidden in the grip. Without the recoil spring, this would be a much narrower grip. I've replaced the recoil spring, but ever since I've put back the original recoil spring, realizing that wasn't one of the problems I had previously. It was pretty much all to do with the magazines. So, like I showed earlier, this is how the toggle operates. And it cocks when it closes. So, once again, I'll snap it. So, this actually is this is a little piece of the toggle that locks onto a claw that's connected to the recoil spring. and actually actuates the operator or operation of the toggle. Here's the toggle, nice and loose. The breech block right here. I don't want to take it apart because it's kind of fiddly for me. But you see this silver right here that moves back and forth? That's the firing pin or striker. Really, the pin is the very tip of it, and that the striker is the rest of it. And it's forced by a body in there, and there's a spring. The spring is a higher powered spring that I bought from, I can't remember what the name of the company was, but it's a little stronger. Of course, I've saved the original spring. I like it because I've noticed on newer firearms the primers seem a bit harder, and I noticed it wasn't hitting as deeply on the primers. It kind of worried me because I'd had a few that didn't fire properly. So I assumed that was it. I haven't had a problem since, so I guess I'm vindicated on that one. I gotta say, this is machined beautifully. I've never really felt anything that smooth. There's no rough points at all, which, I mean, it's absolutely necessary that it be that smooth. The extractor also acts as a load indicator, and if you can, it's hard to see. This is a reproduction extractor, but it would say geladen. This one has it on both sides, but it's really hard to read. But it says geladen, which basically means loaded. The chamber's loaded. So yeah, there's that. It's really easy to reassemble. Put a pin. You get a pin right here, back in here. Put that pin back, and you want this to hang down because everybody owns a Luger. So I'm showing you how to fix it because I know you have one somewhere. Not really. But yeah, that's my Luger, and that's kind of the story of why I have a Luger. It's another one of those things I really can't explain completely other than I love weird guns. In fact, today I had to let go of one of my favorite weird guns. I had a VZ58. Sucks having to sell it, but I need to be able to go to work. So there's that. It fits very nicely. Obviously, the holster is designed for it. Put my name on there. Not going to edit that out. I don't think anybody's really going to be able to use that for anything other than figuring out where I am, but I don't really care. There's an extra magazine that fits in there. 8-round magazine. This is the little pocket right there that fits your takedown tool. So yeah, that's my Luger. That's my my carry firearm. In fact, when I was staying out in the woods this last summer over in Oregon, pretty much every day I had that on my hip just because I was living out in the woods. I've had 3 scares with a reasonably small black bear, but as a friend of mine said, there's no such thing as a small bear. So yeah. But yeah, that's like one of the pride of my collection, my Luger. Really, it's not to the same level as my Krags, but I really do like having a Luger for a 105-year-old pistol. It shoots really well. I have a TTC Tokarev that doesn't shoot nearly as well, and that thing was made in the 50s. So it's saying a lot when you have something like that old that shoots that well, especially when it's in a common round and it's probably been shot a lot, like thousands upon thousands of rounds. And the rifling is still sharp as, not as new, but pretty early in its life. But, that's German manufacturing. You really can't beat it. Even when they were in hard times during World War II, their manufacturing was still pretty much spot on. So, that's it, guys. That's the story of my Luger. I'll talk to you later.